I go live?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I think we're live.
Why is that an oh no?
Because you might ask yourself, why is Amber not on screen today? Well, it's because Amber is defending me from a pack of wolves. We'll have to see if Amber is successful at defending me from the wolves while we read Reddit.
I didn't realize that was my job.
It is, it is. How is the audio today, Amy? Can you hear us loud and clear?
Ooh, we've got 3 votes in the poll now.
Ooh, challengers have arrived to your Mothman, Amber.
I like Nessie as well. I mean, I have the Nessie like ladle and tea infuser set. But what prompted this question is apparently there's a Mothman Build-A-Bear. It's sold out or not available, but it's like the most adorable thing ever, and I want one.
Yeah, Amber was all about that. Hi, Mary. Welcome. Oh, good. I'm glad the audio is good. There's about a 10 second, 15-second delay in the audio today, so it might be a little bit slow. Hi, Susums. Hi, June. Welcome. Welcome, everyone, to our July live stream. I hope wherever you are, it has AC and you're not too hot. And you should also be able to use closed captions. So, hopefully the closed captions also are helpful. We've got a lot of great stories today. Some that will make you laugh, some that will make you cry, but not any that will make you defend other people from wolves.
Ooh.
Yes, exactly.
It's more like a ghost wolf. Am I defending you from ghost wolves now? I think so.
That would probably be a ghost wolf. Let's get started. Enough with this nonsense. Enough with it. Yes, okay. So our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for refusing to cancel my bachelorette party and saying that our wedding savings is my fiance's problem? I'm a 26-year-old female, and I'm currently engaged to my fiance, a 28-year-old male, and we're supposed to get married in 2 months. We've been saving up for our wedding and our honeymoon for the past year, putting aside a significant portion of our income to make sure our special day is perfect. We had about $10,000 saved in the account. Well, this weekend, my fiance had his bachelorette party, and I was totally okay with him having a good time. I even helped him plan it and made sure that everything was organized so that he could enjoy himself with his friends. Fast forward to this morning, and I wake up to find that our joint savings account has been completely drained. He spent all of our savings on his bachelorette party. When I confront him about him, he said he got carried away and didn't realize how much he was spending. We've all had that problem every once in a while now, folks. You know, $10,000 here, $10,000 there. Before you know it, it's all gone.
Yeah, not me.
Yeah, he's admitted that he paid for his friends' expenses as well, thinking that it would be a great last hurrah before we tied the knot. I was furious, but I tried to keep my cool. I told him that he needed to figure out how to replenish the savings because we still had wedding expenses to cover, and blew up about how he could spend $10,000 over the course of 2 days. Well, this weekend is my bachelorette party, which has been planned for months. My 4 best friends have already paid for their share, and I've budgeted carefully so that it wouldn't affect our savings. We're going to a Michelin star restaurant in our city and renting an Airbnb and going for brunch in the morning at one of my favorite restaurants the next day. And I rented out an arcade in our city with unlimited tokens and bought a ton of junk food and candy for all of us to share. Altogether, it was less than $400 per person, including the price of the restaurant, Airbnb, arcade, rental, brunch, and Ubers, with myself spending $1,500 of my personal savings. But now my fiance is demanding that I cancel my weekend to show solidarity and help them save money. He says that it's only fair since he made a mistake, and we need to cut back on expenses to recover from his spending spree. That's how it works, folks. 100% logic solved. I refused to cancel my bachelorette party because, one, I didn't blow our savings. He did. And two, my friends have already paid for their share and I don't want to let them down. He's now calling me selfish and saying that I'm not being supportive of our future together. He's even got some of his friends and family involved who are siding with him and saying that I should be more understanding and cancel my bachelorette weekend. I get that we're in a tough spot financially now, but I don't think that it's fair that I should have to cancel my plans because of his irresponsible behavior. I suggested that he could maybe sell some of the stuff that he bought during the party or pick up extra work to make up for it, and that it's not my problem that he blew all of the money. But he says that I'm being unreasonable. That's right, folks. The pinnacle of unreason. What do you think, folks? Jerk, not the jerk.
Not the jerk, but don't marry this man. Like, can you imagine? Oopsies, I know we were saving up for a house, but I just blew the $50,000. Well, I guess now that's your problem. You're going to have to cancel your Disney Plus subscription because, we need money.
Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous. I do want to pause here and say, hi, Tuesday. Welcome. I think that's the only other person I haven't greeted yet. Yeah, this is absurd. If you couldn't tell from my tone during the reading, this is absolutely absurd that they would think that this is fair. Fair is OP blowing $10,000 for her bachelorette party. What's not fair is him telling her that she can't spend this money now because he spent too much money.
Right. And like he's only considering his own needs. And like this whole solidarity thing, solidarity with what? Like he had a blowout party.
Yeah.
Like she would just be suffering herself so that he can have more money.
Yeah. I would say that the solution to this problem is obvious and is what OP suggested here, right? He sells some of the stuff that he bought if he can even sell it, right?
Well, and the other thing too is like it sounds like OP's bachelorette party is coming right up.
Mm-hmm.
Even if she were to cancel, like most of those deposits are probably non-refundable at this point in time.
Yeah.
And so it would just mean she'd be at home miserable for with little to show.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think OP and her friends should absolutely have a party, but have it be ditching the groom party.
Well, you beat me to it because I was going to say she should cancel her bachelorette party and turn it into a I'm not getting married party to this guy. And I also want to say, hi, Army Soldier Lady, welcome. I agree with you. Cut off the wedding. Cut it all off. What do the comments have to say?
All right, there are lots of comments. So, let's see. I'm just gonna kind of go over a recurring theme. So shouldn't the groomsmen be paying for it? And yeah, it's very common for like the groomsmen and the bridesmaids to chip in a good portion of the wedding, if not the whole thing.
Well, you notice OP said in their thing that the bridesmaids are all contributing their own portion,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Whereas the groomsmen, he wanted to treat them, right? Instead of letting them pay their portion, he saw that they had $10,000 in their joint account and took it upon himself to spend that money without consulting OP.
So he can look like a high roller.
Yeah, so he can look all high and whatever, like impress his friends and stuff like that. This is the best reason not to marry this guy.
Right, and then people want to know what he really spent the money on, and there are some guesses of like adult entertainment
I wonder.
illicit substances.
I wonder what he could have possibly bought with $10,000.
Then Tuesday says solidarity only counts if they both don't have batch parties.
Yeah.
Susum says OP really needs to show solidarity and spend $10K in one weekend, but to be fair, I think she should cancel the wedding.
Yeah.
Amy Lynn's graphics says projection much. She's the one who messed up. OP shouldn't suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
The audacity. Mary says OP is entitled to make a mistake as well, right? But the wedding is a mistake she can't afford to make.
I agree on that.
Tuesday says, can we go fight this man? June says, I would definitely cancel the wedding. That seems to be a reoccurring theme. Amy Lynn says, yeah, I'd call off the wedding. Mary says, luckily that 10K falls within the small claims court limit. Army Soldiers Lady says, call off the wedding. And Mary says, Tuesday, I'm with you. Let's gather the torches and pitchforks.
Apparently everyone is about the angry mob today. Well then, I would say before we get too far in that angry mob, maybe we should move on to the next letter. Our next letter speaking of angry mobs, is titled, "Am I a jerk for refusing to give my coworker a ride after he insulted my car?" I don't know if there is actually an angry mob in this one, but
It's a
we can
little
pretend.
lower stakes, but
Little
it's
lower
still
stakes.
pretty outrageous.
I'm a 27-year-old female, and I drive a reliable older car that I've had since college. It's nothing fancy, but it's well maintained and gets me where I need to go. My coworker Mike, a 31-year-old male, recently had his car break down and has been asking for rides from various people in the office. Well, last week, Mike asked if I could give him a ride home. I agreed, even though it's a little bit out of my way. When he saw my car, he made a face and said, "Wow, I didn't think people still drove those kinds of cars. Why don't you get something nicer?" I was taken aback by his rudeness, but I brushed it off. During the ride, he continued to make snide comments about how my car was a piece of junk and how he couldn't believe that I was okay being seen in it. I stayed quiet and I just focused on my driving. Well, when we finally reached his place, he got out without even thanking me. The next day, Mike asked me for another ride. I told him no, explaining that I didn't appreciate his comments about my car. He got defensive and said that he was just being honest and that I was overreacting. He's just telling the truth. He's not trying to hurt you, folks. He's just telling you how it is. The truth. Brutal, honest truth. He then went around the office telling people that I was being selfish and difficult. Some of my coworkers think that I should just let it go and help him out since he's in a tough spot. But I feel disrespected, and I don't want to be treated like that again. I've always been willing to help out, but not at the expense of being insulted. Am I the jerk for refusing to give Mike a ride even though he insulted my car? And folks, I just want to point this out. This one little tiny detail. Apparently Mike's really nice car that isn't a piece of junk works less well than OP's piece of junk car. I just want to point that out for a second here. What do you folks think? Jerk? Not the jerk?
Not the jerk. I mean, even if Mike was not a rather mean person, you still wouldn't be entitled, like required to give him a ride, right?
Yeah.
It's a nice thing to do for a coworker, but why would you give a ride to someone who spent the entire trip insulting you in your car purchase?
Yeah.
Like, we say this often on this channel, but like, don't bite the hand that feeds you, maybe?
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. If Mike has such a problem with the junk car, then maybe his feet need a little bit of exercise. That's all. That's what I have to say here. Like, the thing is, like, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. Don't be rude to people, and don't tell people that their cars are junk, especially when you're in a hard spot. Like, the fact that Mike's car is not a piece of junk, at least OP has a car to be seen in, right?
Right. Well, choosy beggar at its finest.
Yeah. But yeah, what do the comments have to say on this?
So Amy Lynn says, don't bite the hand that drives you. Mary says, I'm just being honest. No. Amy Lynn says, he's just being a jerk. Mary says, LOL, fellow coworkers don't want him in theirs.
Yeah.
And Stu Sum says, people who are in a tough spot can't afford to be honest.
Well, yeah, I can't afford to be brutally honest, right? Like, I think it's important to be honest and candid with people, but
to a degree.
But this wasn't in like a good spirit or anything like that, right? Like, he's not being honest to like help OP out, right? Because like it's important to be honest with people if like they like have if there's something that
if the car was a death trap.
Yeah, like if the car was literally like falling apart and like he felt
flames coming out of it. OP, if you get in that car, you're gonna get incinerated.
Yeah, I mean, then brutal honesty is important, right? Hey, this car is going to kill you. But this is just mean-spirited type stuff here, right? This is him just being like, hey, I want to tear you down and, make fun of you because of your car here.
It's the type of thing that doesn't need to be said, It's cosmetic things. Oftentimes, you don't need to tell people if you don't like their car or their outfit or their haircut or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Then let's move on to our next letter here. Speaking of being brutally honest.
Right. Well, and Susums did say honest in like parenthetically.
And parenthetically. Yes, of course. Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling All of My Family that if I'm babysitting, there are no rules? Well, my family tends to stick me, an 18-year-old female, with my nieces and nephews when we get together. I am also going the go-to for babysitting. I did not get paid for this because since my siblings watched me when I was little, I owe them. I don't really mind. I love all of the kids, and they are well behaved and polite. With me, at least, because I don't put up with their nonsense. I established my dominance early with all of them. I also have no cares to give when it comes to the rules regarding watching them. I would never allow them to get hurt or anything. I just won't follow a huge list of rules. If you want your kids to eat vegan, then you better bring a vegan meal for them. Otherwise, they get pizza or dino nuggets or hot dogs. If they aren't allowed to watch woke movies or TV, then it's up to you to provide me with a TV and movie because I'm putting on Frozen or something. My parents keep telling me that I have to follow the rules when I'm babysitting. I just keep asking why. What's the worst that anyone can do to me? Take away my free babysitting? Oh, poor me. Well, we are in Jasper right now, and it's been hot. So I took the kiddos off to cliff jumping and horse riding, or to cliff jumping at Horseshoe Lake. I brought them back wet and filthy. Everyone told me that I was being a terrible babysitter. I offered a full refund. Then I went and got a beer with some friends, and I had made at the lake. I love the response of the whole, you can have a refund on my babysitting here. I have a full scholarship. When I turn 18, I also got a small inheritance. It's enough that I won't have to work for spending money during my university years and put down a down payment on a house. I'll probably leave it though. I literally do not need financial help from my family, so they have nothing to hold over me. My siblings and I all got the exact same inheritance, except I was the only one of the three of them when my grandmother passed away, so it's been collecting compound interest. Oh, I was only 3 when I got this, so it's been collecting compound interest for almost 20 years. My trust fund is about 4 times what my siblings got. My families think that I am being entitled, but they also won't pay me. Am I more than willing to follow any rules that I'm more than willing to follow any rules that I'm actually being paid to follow. All right, folks, what do you think of this one?
Not the jerk. I really love the OP's attitude here. I think it's perfect. Like, these people want to use OP for free babysitting, but then they want to try and put all kinds of demands on her.
Yeah.
No. If they want their free babysitting, they get what they pay for.
Well, that's it, right? I think that OP is well within the rights to tell them that they can stop leaving their kids with her if they don't want her to babysit anymore. It's not that hard, right? And I also want to point out, like they say, OP says, oh, I owe it to them. No, OP does not owe it to anybody for being a small child needing care at some point in time.
Right.
It's not her obligation to pay this debt back for people taking care of her, right?
Right. Like, if the parents parentify the older siblings, that's on them.
Yeah.
But OP is not responsible for being born.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really nice that OP is willing to watch the kids. But she's also not getting paid for this. She's doing this for free out of the kindness of her heart. And she's being a good aunt all around here, right? I mean, she's just not following whatever pedantic rules that they've given her. So I don't have a problem with what OP's doing here. What do the comments have to say?
So Amy Lynn says OP never chose to be born and have to be babysat.
Exactly.
I like the cut of OP's jib, as my hubby would say. June says, I don't think she's the jerk. If the parents want her to follow the rules, they need to pay her. It sounds like the kids had fun. Mary says, gotta admit, cliff jumping had my heart in my mouth, but what a cool babysitter. OP would run the risk of having me choose them as my go-to babysitter. And then Susan says, OP sounds fun and a cool babysitter. I will send my future kids to OP.
Yeah, I think that's, OP does not sound like a bad babysitter at all. Speaking of bad babysitters, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for exploding at my friend for not feeding my dog for a week because they believed a water fast was healthy? And as you can see, yes, it works. Babysitting still works here. It's a great segue. Hi, everyone. I need to vent and get some perspective on something that has me absolutely livid. I recently went on a week-long business trip and asked my friend, who we'll call Jane, to pet sit my dog, Max. Max has always seemed responsible. Oh, Jane has always seemed responsible. Of course, Max has, because they're a dog. They're a man's best friend, loyal to a fault, right? Jane has always seemed responsible and claims to love animals, so I trusted her without hesitation. I left detailed, explicit instructions on Max's feeding schedule, his favorite treats, and how to take care of him. I even stocked up on his favorite food and treats to ensure there would be no issues. Well, when I returned, I immediately noticed something was wrong. Max was unusually lethargic, his ribs were more pronounced, and he looked genuinely unwell. Alarm bells went off in my head, so I confronted Jane and I asked her about what had happened. To my utter disbelief, she nonchalantly told me that she hadn't fed Max any food the entire week. Why? Because she decided to put him on a water fast, claiming that she had read somewhere that it was supposedly healthy for dogs. I was absolutely horrified. Jane, who has no veterinary training or knowledge, took it upon herself to ignore my clear instructions and subject Max to what is essentially starvation. She calmly explained that she thought that she was doing him a favor by letting his system detox. I couldn't contain my anger and I exploded at her, screaming that what she did was incredibly dangerous and irresponsible. Jane then had the audacity to get defensive, saying that I was overreacting and that her intentions were good. I rushed Max to the vet, and thankfully he is on the mend, but the vet confirmed that the week-long lack of food has caused some severe health issues. I am beyond angry and I feel deeply betrayed by Jane. She has since apologized, but insists that she thought that she was doing the right thing. Am I the jerk for trusting Jane to babysit and exploding at her for not feeding Max? Should I have been even more explicit about not doing anything out of the ordinary with Max's care, even though I thought that my instructions were clear enough? Thank you for your input. And I want to say, welcome, Star Trek. I see you there. Welcome. And what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
No, definitely not the jerk. I mean, what she did is absolutely horrifying. Like, it sounds like the dog is going to be okay, and that's really good. But like, you don't starve people's pets.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You just OP, like, you shouldn't even have to tell someone not to starve your pet. Like, that should be like basic instructions. But OP even gave detailed instructions on this is what my dog likes to eat. These are the favorite treats and everything. And then she's just like, you know what? I'm gonna not feed your dog because I can.
Well, I think by OP saying feed my dog, she implicitly said, don't starve my pet, right? This is a living animal that requires food, right? And they starved it. This is animal abuse, right? And this is not good. Like, Jane could go to jail with this because this is animal neglect, animal abuse. She chose to abuse this animal. And OP has every right to be mad, and the dog is suffering ill health effects from their aid, right? So I would say that if you're not a medical professional and you don't have knowledge, then don't make these kinds of assumptions here, right? You can't make health decisions about someone else's pet here, unless there's clear signs of abuse towards the animal, right? Like,
well, yeah, like there may be situations when you're pet sitting when you have to make a snap decision, like if they get into something bad or something like that and you're worried about them, but you always need to have their health first and foremost and make sure you have accurate information.
Yeah. So, but what do the comments have to say here?
So let's see. Amy Lynn's graphic says, not the jerk. Mary says, what? Amy Lynn says, don't starve other people's pets if you're responsible for them. June says, we don't have to hear the story to know that the friend is a huge jerk. Amy Lynn says, so that's an interesting excuse for forgetting to feed someone's pet. Oh, they were on a cleanse, aka I forgot to feed them. And then Susum says, if Jane didn't want to look after the dog, she should say that, not torture the poor animal. I wonder if Jane had water fast all week herself. Mary says, that sounds like a criminal accident. June says, I wonder if she can report her to the police.
I hope she can. I really hope she can.
Yeah, and Amy Lynn says, I was going to say the same thing. Susum says, I wonder if OP can sue about it, at least for the vet bill. And June seconds that. And then Star Trek says, not the jerk because it's not Jane's dog and she went against what the owner wanted. Army Soldiers Lady says, not the jerk, that's horrible. Tell Jane to pay for the dog's vet bills. And Mary says, in Nevada, it is animal cruelty and abuse with fines up to $1,000.
Nice. Exactly the way it needs to be. The way it needs to be. Speaking of hefty fines and illegal activity, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Dismissing My Wife's Concerns About Me Driving 100 miles plus on the highway? Yes. Yes, you are. I'm a 36-year-old male and I work in a rural area, absolutely in the middle of nowhere. Because of that, there's mostly nobody on the highway as I get closer, and I usually speed up to over 100 miles per hour. Honestly, nobody really cares. It's never been an issue. Until when I was driving there to pick something up on Monday. I forgot my earbuds, and we were going somewhere anyways. And my wife starts hissing at me to slow down. I asked her what the problem is, and she says that I'm going way too fast, especially since our kids, a 5-year-old female and a 3-year-old male, were inside of the car. Note, I was going about 90. I replied, saying that the highway was basically empty, so we would be fine. I do this drive every single day at higher speeds. Justification upon justification. Well, that makes it just fine. Conversation ended there. After getting my stuff and getting to our destination while my kids were doing some rides, my wife wanted to stop right where we started. I told her that I get her point, but like I said, the highway isn't even close to full, and we would just be wasting time to go slower. Well, her asking for judgment on whether or not I was in the wrong in the situation, since my wife still 100% thinks that she's in the right. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think? Putting children and your wife into a dangerous situation, fine?
Yeah, I'm gonna say OP is 100% the jerk here. I mean, he shouldn't be driving that fast on his own, but especially not with his wife and kids in the car.
Yeah.
You know, if you're driving someone else and you're going above the speed limit and they are concerned about it, you need to slow down.
So, I mean, there are places in the world that do have unrestricted speed limits, right? Like the Autobahn and whatnot. But this isn't there, right? Like if this was actually on the, German Autobahn and there was no posted speed limit and he could go as fast as he wanted, I still think that the wife should have some say and some input about whether she feels safe or not.
Well,
right?
yeah, certainly. Like when you have passengers, you have to put their safety in mind and not just your own.
Now, I understand OP being like, well, it's a waste of time, but the problem I have here is that he is responsible for both his wife and his children's safety in this case. And if you crash going those speeds, then there's no way anyone will survive, right?
Yeah. And like I know he's like, well, there's not a lot of cars, but like there are other things that get onto highways.
Yeah.
I mean, in Maine, moose collisions happen, deer collisions, like animals will wander across them. There could be objects in the way, things that have fallen off of vehicles. There's all kinds of ways. A wet patch on the road, any number of things that could send you spinning.
Yeah, and that's it, right? I mean, the thing is, like, at those kinds of speeds, it takes just a blink of an eye for something wrong to happen, right? And I understand, like, OP being like, oh, this is just fine. I do this every single day. Well, your wife doesn't. She's not comfortable with it, and you shouldn't be driving faster than what your wife is comfortable with. She's an equal say in this relationship. She should also be able to decide what she is willing to risk with her life or not, right?
Right. And I mean, yeah, okay, it might take you a little longer to get there, but like a few extra minutes, I would say, is a small price to pay to keep living.
Yeah, I would say that as well. But what do the comments have to say?
So Emilian Graphics says, OMG, that's scary. And did you know that if you go twice the speed limit in California, you can get arrested? Mary says, and if the tire blows.
Oh, yeah. Tire blows, anything, right?
And June says, yes, definitely the jerk. Seriously, he had his kids in the car and putting them in danger. Susum says, I would never get in a car with OP. And June says, and he put others people on the road in danger too.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I like the fact that it is criminal speeding here. If a cop did meander onto this highway and see him, right? I know that there aren't any cops here, he would actually go to jail about this. This isn't something that you can just talk your way out of a ticket. The police officer, they will take you to jail over this. Speaking of going to jail, not really. There's no jail in this one. Maybe relationship jail. Marriage jail. Am I the jerk for having a bad reaction to my anniversary gift?
I like the idea of marriage jail on this channel. I feel like we need it.
I think like the centrifuge and marriage jail and stuff like that, there's some way of marrying those two concepts,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for having a bad reaction to my anniversary gift? So this is my first Reddit post, so please bear with me. I'm a 26-year-old female and I got married a year ago to Luke, a 28-year-old male. The wedding was amazing, and I was so in the moment and having so much fun that I didn't look in the mirror post-ceremony. At the end of the night, I noticed that my hair looked like a rat's nest, but I thought that it was just from all the dancing. Well, when we got the photos back, I was horrified because my hair looked really bad in most of the pictures. I expressed this to my husband, and he tells me that I look beautiful, but it's hard for me to look past, especially in the close-ups. These pictures were one of the happiest days of my life, and it's so frustrating that I don't feel pretty when looking at so many of them. Well, fast forward to last night, we exchanged anniversary gifts, and apparently there is a tradition to give a form of paper to your first anniversary. I've never heard of this before, so is this common? He got a painting commissioned of one of our wedding photos, and I have a horrible poker face, and I was visibly upset and had a loss of words for a moment. Eventually, I said something along the lines of, "Wow, thank you, I appreciate the effort." The painting is one, a close-up from an angle that my hair looks particularly bad, and two, not my style at all. It looks like one of those modern street styles, and everything that we have is vintage MCM, so the style of painting wouldn't really flow with any of our furniture. And three, the artist is someone that he knows, and to me, it feels like he just wanted to support a person, and my style preferences weren't even considered. Well, we had an argument because he was upset that I didn't appreciate his gesture. This was something that he had ordered months ago, and he feels that it was the principle to not the actual painting. I feel unheard because he picked a photo where my insecurities are being highlighted. There are several photos in our place that I have printed out and hung up where it's a little further away or my veil is covering my hair and I feel more confident in them. I wish that he would have paid more attention to those and used a picture that wasn't so close up. Am I the jerk for not liking his gift and being upset? Also, I do want to note that gifts are one of my love languages, which has been discussed many times. Edit, thank you for everyone that has commented. After our argument last night, we both apologized, and I will apologize again. I should have gone into more details after my appreciation comment. I did let him know that I thought it was really thoughtful, and I thanked him again. I also told him that I liked it. This was about 30 seconds after my initial reaction. He was upset because he could tell that I really didn't like the painting. I do appreciate the gesture, but in my mind, we've had several conversations about how I do not feel pretty in some of the photos, and have even pointed out the ones that I like and don't like when we were going through them together. In this particular photo, he looks very handsome, but it was odd that this is the one that he chose to get painted, as it's close up and it really highlights my hair. Our conversation afterward, he expressed that he was disappointed because he expected me to jump up and give him a big hug and kiss. For people asking what I got him tickets to his favorite comedian in one of his favorite cities, and he's been talking about wanting to go to this place for months. I also spent hours editing a wedding video for us. We did not hire a videographer because of expenses, but we did have a camera set up on a tripod and friends to take videos. Going through all of the film and editing took about 5 hours, and it's a 35-minute video. As for the love language comment, I find joy from giving and receiving gifts. I think part of the reason that gifts mean a lot to me because my birthday's in December, and usually I would get a combined present where my siblings would get noticeably more. I understand that this is coming from a place of privilege as I grew up in a household where money wasn't tight. All right, folks, what do you think?
I mean, I can understand why OP would be upset if he chose a photo where it was unflattering to her, and especially if she had explicitly pointed it out.
Yeah.
And my wondering is like, I'm wondering if he's been listening to her. Like, that's what comes through to me in all of this. Like, I don't think he did this maliciously, but it does make me wonder how much he pays attention to what she says.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like it's a painting, and the artist presumably could have like, oh, you know, her husband could have told the artist to like, oh, she's self-conscious about her hair, could you like smooth it out or whatever. Like there are ways it could have been approached. So I understand he probably thought this was a sweet gesture, but it seems like he also didn't take her feelings into consideration, which is where I have a problem.
Yeah, well, I feel that there might be no one in the wrong here to some degree. I think him and his reaction to OP's reaction was a little off-putting because he's like, well, I expected you to really love and enjoy this. Well, the thing is, like, gift giving is sometimes a tricky thing, right? You can't just expect someone to have a reaction here, right? To that the planned reaction. Sometimes people are gonna like a gift, and it's not like she went out of her way to demean and insult this gift, right?
You know, she tried to say she liked it, but it was clear from her face she didn't. And like sometimes that happens, you know.
Yeah, and so I don't really fault OP for her reaction. I don't necessarily fault him for the gift either, but I think that he should have put a little more thought into it, especially since they had already gone over all the photos. He already knew ones that she actually liked. She already has ones hung up. So it's really hard for me to understand why he chose this photo of all photos, right?
Right. Well, if he wanted it to be a gift for her, you would think he might have even asked her, like, which of these photos is your favorite or something like that. So, I mean, I don't think he did this maliciously.
No, he didn't.
You know, it does seem like he could have potentially put her feelings into it a little bit more. It seemed more like a household gift, or, you know, a gift for, he picked like a picture where he looks really good.
Yeah.
And didn't really think about OP's self-consciousness.
Yeah, but I mean, but back to your point for a moment here about the painter and being able to edit this photo. She probably would have really enjoyed it if she had felt like her hair was normal and whatnot. But even more onto that point, to dig into that point further, why did nobody at the wedding say anything about her hair?
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I've wondered too, you know.
Like, it seems so strange to me. I think if, like, I saw the bride with her hair messed up, I might be like, hey, you know, your hair's a little messed up. You need a touch up or something like that. Especially if I was like the videographer, right? Or the photographer.
Yeah, photographer.
Because it sounds like they had a photographer there. They just didn't have a videographer. So I think the photographer kind of dropped the ball by not doing what, you know, by not pointing this out.
Right. Well, bridesmaids, if she had hair and makeup, you know.
Yeah.
Then like.
Sure. So certainly I think that like maybe her hair did come messed up at some point in time during the stuff, but I mean it sounds like it was the entire time, right? So I don't blame OP for being, you know, for her reaction. She still said that she liked it. She just was, you know, not as excited as he wanted her. And I think I don't think he was wrong, but I don't think you can tell people how their reaction should be to gifts. And so that's where I feel like he kind of was a little bit in the wrong here, by just telling her that she reacted wrongly when she saw this gift, right?
Right. Well, and like I'm someone who gets self-conscious about photos. I'll have Brian take like 80 different photos of me. And like I'm pretty sure if you were gonna get me a photo gift, you would like check with me and make sure it was the photo I liked.
No, I would get you the worst one.
Okay.
But what do the comments have to say?
So let's see.
Oh, we got a lot of comments.
Yeah. June says, well, I would be happy. For me, I think he put a lot of thought into it. Mary says, OP, this is the first of hopefully many anniversary opportunities. Pace yourself. Amy Lynn says, no jerks here, but I think it's sweet that OP's husband thought she still looked beautiful on the wedding day. And I think to him,
agree.
The painting wasn't about the aesthetics. It was the symbolic of the most important day of their life together. And June says, wait till they have real issues in their marriage. Amy Lynn says, oh, and no jerks here. And June says, I just think you should choose your arguments.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. I mean, I agree with those comments a lot. I do, I do. I mean, I'm not saying that he's like a terrible person. I know I prefaced this by saying he's a terrible person in going to marriage jail, but I was wrong. I was wrong. What can
Well,
I say?
we were trying to find some way to tie
It
into
was a
the theme.
segue. It was a segue. Speaking of being wrong, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Recording My Mother-in-Law's Insults and Showing Them to My Husband?
Okay, this one does require marriage jail.
This one does require marriage jail. We promise. Marriage jail this time. Or the centrifuge. Or both. Maybe the centrifuge, then marriage jail.
Centrifuge for mother-in-law and marriage jail for the husband.
Yeah. I was about to say the title again. For the context, my husband is a 31-year-old male and I am a 29-year-old female, and we have been married for 3 years. Throughout our relationship, his mother, we'll call her Jane, has never liked me. She's always been making snide comments and passive-aggressive comments, but she's careful to do it when he isn't around. Whenever I bring it up to him, he says that I'm exaggerating or misinterpreting her. Well, things came to a head a month ago during a visit to Jane's house. Jane was in top form, making little jabs about my cooking, my job, and even the way I dress. I was at the breaking point, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. I started using the voice memo app on my iPhone, and I recorded our interactions whenever I was alone with Jane. Over the next few weeks, I managed to capture several of her comments. She said things like, "He must really love you to put up with your cooking," and "Your job is so cute, it must be nice not to have any real responsibilities." Last weekend, after Jane left our house from another visit, I decided that it was time to show him the truth. I played the recordings to him, and he looked stunned and didn't say anything for a few minutes. Then he said that he couldn't believe that his mom would say those things. But then he insisted, and then instead of being angry at Jane, he turned on me. He accused me of violating his mother's privacy and said that I went too far by recording her without her knowledge. He felt betrayed that I didn't talk to him first before resorting to this. I tried to explain that I had talked to him multiple times, and he didn't believe me. But he wasn't having it. He packed a bag, and then he went to stay at his parents' house to cool off. Go figure. He's still upset with me and hasn't come home yet. I don't know if I went too far, or if this was the wake-up call that Jane needed. So am I the jerk for recording my mother-in-law's insults and then showing them to my husband? And then we don't need to read any of that. All right, folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk, but I think it might be time for a divorce here. Like, it's not cool that he didn't believe Opie to begin with. Like, like to dismiss her outright and be like, my mom would never do that. That is not a good partner right there. He should have at least been open and to hearing the possibility that his mom would say mean things.
Yeah.
But then Opie comes to him with proof. Like,
Yeah.
Here's the proof. Your mom has been rude to me. And he's like, you're invading my mom's privacy. I'm going to go run off to my parents because now I have to contend with the fact that my mom is mean to you.
Well, he didn't want evidence.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want proof. He wanted to be right. And all he really wanted was to keep his illusion that his mom was not doing this and have the path of least resistance. If he was really interested in supporting his wife, then he wouldn't have gone to his parents' house to sulk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that he's really shown who he is here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's time OP believes him. Either one, they need serious marriage counseling and in order to like work through this, or she needs to decide that this is the end of this relationship, because she doesn't deserve to be harassed and maligned like this every single time she goes and visits Jane here.
Yeah.
So I think that this is really a mother-in-law problem. I think this is a husband problem. And if he doesn't come around, then I don't know, maybe divorce.
All right. And so let's see. Amy Lynn says, like, I hate the passive-aggressive mother-in-laws and enmeshed mommy's boys. Not the jerk. Good on Opie for recording this true. Susum says, today in posts are called Jame. Anyway, it is time for Opie to get a good divorce lawyer. June says, not the jerk. I know that feeling. I think that she had to prove to her husband is a jerk. Mary says, don't change the locks. Nail the doors shut.
I like that.
Amy Lynn says, yep, definitely marriage jail. And Mommy Dearest gets the centrifuge. Oh, sorry, it just scrolled me. And I'd reconsider this marriage. Star Trek says Opie is not the jerk. It sounds like Opie is married to a mama's boy. And then Susum says, I mean, nasty women are called Jane already in the second story today.
Yeah, I was noticing that. I was like, am I having deja vu here?
And then Opie had to resort to record. Amy Lynn says Opie had to resort to recording him after many attempts to bring this to his attention and him dismissing her concerns. Better than Karen. I know a lot of lovely Karens, so it's so funny they've got a bad rep, but Janes can be the new Karens. And then Mary says, and I think there is room in the centrifuge for two.
I think you're right.
The funny thing, Jane is the name of one of the characters in my story that's coming out at the end of this month, but it's a nickname.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that you'll have to read and find out more about Jade. Speaking of finding more out, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Icing Out My Sister-in-Law After She Made Fun of My Wedding? I like this one a lot. Folks. I think you're going to enjoy it. My husband is a 26-year-old male and I'm a 24-year-old female, and we recently had our dream wedding around Dungeons and Dragons. Both of us are huge fans, and we thought that it would be fun to have a unique way to celebrate our special day, considering that we met via playing the game. We both wore costumes, with my husband dressed in his Eldritch Knight PC, and I dressed as a Seelie Archfairy. I think playing character, I'm not sure. We even encouraged our guests to dress up, and many of them did, which made the day even more magical. Well, most of our friends and family were supportive and seemed to have a great time. However, my sister-in-law, my husband's brother's wife, a 29-year-old female, was not so pleased. She attended the wedding but refused to wear a costume, which was fine since they were optional. The problem started during the reception when she began to make snide remarks about our theme. She loudly joked about how childish and ridiculous it was for adults to dress up like characters from a game, and even called it a waste of a wedding. Well, I tried to brush it off at first, not wanting to cause a scene, but her comments continued throughout the night. She even said something directly to me about how I looked like I was going to go to a Halloween party rather than my own wedding.
Who says your wedding can't be a Halloween party?
Exactly. By the end of the evening, I was really hurt and upset. My husband noticed and confronted her privately. She brushed it off as just joking. She was just joking, folks, just joking. She made fun of the food that we had chosen to serve, the song that we had picked for our first dance, Merry-Go-Round of Life from Howl's Moving Castle, and even my wedding dress because it wasn't a real wedding dress. She hurt my feelings severely, and when my husband stood up to her, she told him about that our wedding was a nerdy loser wedding, and the wedding was over. After the wedding was over, my husband stopped talking to her entirely and only has spoken to his brother ever since. Well, yesterday, a month after our wedding, we had a dinner party with our immediate family, and I asked my husband if we could refrain from inviting her. He agreed and said that she needed to be on a time out for disrespecting both of us. She found out that she missed the dinner and was super angry with me, texting me that I was a jerk and a bee for not inviting her, but still inviting her husband. I told her that my brother-in-law wasn't disrespectful, and she shouldn't have been surprised that we wouldn't want to be around her after she badmouthed our wedding. She told me that I was a major jerk, and that she was just joking and talking about her preferences. I feel really bad for not inviting her. Don't. But I don't want to see her after she made our wedding about herself and her preferences. My husband agrees with me, but my brother-in-law has stopped since talking to her. But my brother-in-law has since stopped talking to either of us because we disrespected his wife, and that she was just joking, and that we can't take a joke. All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk. I mean, let's ask her, like, what is funny about this?
Yeah.
You know, when people make these quote-unquote jokes,
Yeah.
you know, what's funny? What's funny about telling someone their wedding dress isn't a real wedding dress and looks like a Halloween costume?
Yeah.
You know, as someone who also wore a not real wedding dress, because I'm assuming she wants like a traditional white dress. Like, you can wear whatever wedding dress you want. It's still a wedding dress. You got married in it. I really don't like her judgy attitude, and she doesn't deserve to be at family functions, and celebrating with OP and her husband when she absolutely trashed them.
Yeah, and that's the problem I have here is that it seems like she went out of her way to trash talk people. She just, it was one of these unnecessary comments, kind of like the car guy where
Mm-hmm.
he's being honest or he's just joking or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, when it's just really just hurtful and mean and spiteful. Things like this didn't need to be said. How did she change anything by saying this other than like punching down at OP,
Well,
right?
that's it. She doesn't like it, so she wants to tear them down. And they use the just joking so they can get away with it. But
Mm-hmm.
you can't hide behind just joking. You have to realize, like, even if you make a joke, if it's not well received, like, that's on you. And to spend an entire night belittling the bride and groom on their wedding day that's trashy, not the wedding.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What do the comments have to say?
Um, so let's see. Amy Lynn says, "Ooh, I wish I was invited. That sounds amazing." And Mary says, "Ooh, I'm on board for a D&D ceremony." Amy Lynn says, "If Sis doesn't like it, she can leave the wedding. I'd talk to my maid of honor and have her thrown out." Yes, Halloween party wedding. I'd go to that too. Mary says, sister-in-law should have come as a demigorgon. Susum says, "I hope sister-in-law gets happy and stops making other people sad."
Yeah.
June says, "Not the jerk. Sounds like an awesome wedding. I think she showed up just to complain."
Mm-hmm.
Amy Lynn says, "Good on Opie's husband for having Opie's back, and I love that she was left out. But what if it was a D&D themed dinner, or Harry Potter themed, or other fun theme?"
Yeah, well, they should make it a theme so that she
Yeah.
just wouldn't want to go, right?
And June says, "I wouldn't want anything to do with her. She sounds like a fake friend." And Susum says, "Opie and her husband are doing it right. Get toxic people out of their life." Amy Lynn says, "And dull as heck, she probably had the pumpkin spice latte of weddings." And Mary says, "Wow, you don't get brass for the anniversary until year 21. Who gave OP those brass in private parts so early? Good job."
I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Our next letter is titled, "Am I the jerk for defending my mom when she wore the wrong color to my wedding? I recently got married and I will admit that my mom is a lot. I have fully backed my wife now. I have fully backed my now wife in telling my mom that this is not her wedding and her place is to be quiet and support us and our decisions. My mom does like attention. My wife wanted a cohesive look for our family and our wedding party and assigned both moms a color to wear. My mom was supposed to wear pink, but she showed up in teal. She said that she was sorry, but she got glass embedded in her collarbone the night before at work, and the teal dress was the only one that she owned that had a high neck. And she wasn't lying. She was late that morning because she was just leaving the ER and she still has bandages. My wife was mad and snapped at my mother that she can't even follow a simple direction. I thought that the issue was forgotten, but we got back from our honeymoon and she brought up how my mom was rude to do that. I said that it wasn't really her fault as she was injured. My wife asked if I was really defending her. I said that I don't think that she did anything wrong and that my wife blew up at me. She said that my mom just had to mess up and maybe she shouldn't have gone to her company party that night before as she knew what they are like. I want to know what her company party is like here. Do they often, is it brawling? Is she like in the WWE? Is her company involved in fighting, street fighting? So she ended up being distant that night, and I can tell that she is hurt. I just don't think that my mom did anything wrong this time. All right, folks, what do you think?
No, I'm gonna say that OP is not the jerk here. Like, it sounds like the mom in general is a bit of a drama person, but in this particular situation, I think wearing the quote unquote wrong color dress is a lot less distracting for the wedding than having visible like bandaged wounds.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like she was just trying to cover her wounds, and I don't blame her for not wanting to, like, her bandages all showing.
Yeah, well, I have one question for OP's wife. Would they have complained if she had shown up and had bandages showing and stuff like that?
Yes, because then she's stealing the attention. Like, the mom was in a no-win situation here.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel. I feel maybe I'm speculating. I'm wildly, rampantly speculating, of course, that the bride would have complained about the mother showing up in bandages, but I'm guessing she would have. I think she would have been like, she was just trying to steal the attention away from me and have people ask her about how she got injured and
Then she
stuff like
shouldn't
that.
have gone to her company party. She knows what they're like.
Yeah, I would have been the same thing. So I think Amber's right here. No win situation. But what do the comments have to say?
Uh, Mary says, I think a legit ER visit rates cut some slack. Wife is a bridezilla, big time. June says, under the circumstances, I'm going to say not the jerk. I don't think she did it intentionally.
Yeah.
Amy Lynn says, I think if she actually was injured, then the wife should have empathy and compassion, attention seeking or not with the mom. But I wonder if she actually did get injured. But she wore teal, not white, so I see no issue here. And then June says, we need an invite to that party. And then Susum says, unless there is some other reason to think the mother faked the injury and there wasn't any real issue, I don't think the mother was wrong.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel here. All right, we have enough time for maybe this and then tea time and then one last story. We'll go over a little bit. How's that sound? Unless people don't want this longer story here. Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Refusing to Go to My Best Friend Guy's Wedding and Telling My Parents That I Am Going to Cut Them Off? So, I grew up with my family and another family whose parents were best friends with mine since high school. My parents had me, a 28-year-old female, and my two older brothers, a 31-year-old male and a 35-year-old male, while their friends had four boys, a 27-year-old male, a 29-year-old male, a 30-year-old male, and a 37-year-old male. Quite the family. Growing up was pretty nice, but the boys used to pick on me a lot and exclude me during their girls are yucky phase. I would say that I see these boys as brothers and maybe cousins. Well, I was close to the 27-year-old male and the 29-year-old male when I was little. I will call them Adam and Jake. Until we were 15, we were really close and we did a lot together. Well, I don't talk to Jake much anymore. No hard feelings, but he grew up to be a classic tech bro and can be really condescending. However, our families are obsessed with the idea of us ending up together. The other guys are already married and Adam is gay. They've always pushed for us to be together, making us go to the store alone on Christmas, telling us both earlier times to meet at a restaurant for Dad's birthday, and talking him up a lot, etc. Then both Jake and I met our significant others. I have been with my fiance for 5 years, and Jake met his fiance 3 years ago. Our families have been very disappointed and have not welcomed our significant others' families warmly at all. One Christmas, I took Jake's fiance, Tracy, aside and explained what the weird family lore was to her. With Jake, I just like we did with my fiance, we assured her that it was just a weird thing that our family was doing and that Jake and I have not been close for ages and have never had more than a friendly relationship. Ironically, having to stand against our parents made us a little bit closer. But then we come to the problem. Jake and Tracy are going to get married very soon, and it has been chaos. Our parents have upped their antics by 2,000%. Their family dinners are full of the, we thought you two would get married. They brought out a picture that I apparently drew of me and Jake when we were little of us getting married. I suspect that they made it. It did not look like it was made by an actual child. They were cornering Tracy about making me a matron of honor and letting me wear white. What? And his brothers and my brothers joined in, making jokes about us being star-crossed lovers and calling me the missus. I distanced myself heavily from my family during that time, and I stopped going home and talking to them, and that did nothing though. Well, one day, one of my brothers invited me out. He said that it was just my two brothers and me. So I went to his apartment, and when I arrived, it was Jake's bachelor party. One of his brothers screamed out that the stripper was here. Ew. I wanted to leave, but the next train left at 12 a.m. And it was not the safest neighborhood, so I stayed. They tried to make me drunk and were constantly physically pushing me and Jake together and even locked us in my brother's bedroom. I could hear loud laughing from the other side. Jake and I did not talk much. He apologized and asked me if I could not come. Sorry about that. He apologized and asked me not to come to the wedding, and I made Tracy uncomfortable. I was completely understanding, and I said at this point I was not planning on going anymore anyways. He offered to drive me home, as he was also completely sober. When he opened the door, he said that we were going home. In their heads, that meant that we were going to be intimate or something, because all the caveman sounds started. The next day, my phone was blowing up. Someone uploaded a video of me and Jake leaving and captioned it "finally," and it was very awkward. I am clearly uncomfortable, and so is Jake, as we exit the apartment and enter his car. There were comments, calls, and texts. Tracy calling me crying and cursing me out. Jake called me to apologize and telling me he tried to explain. My mother and his mother sent me a bunch of texts saying how proud they are and that it was about time. My fiance is understanding, but he wants me to make clearer boundaries with my family. I drove past their house, and they were all there. They didn't even let me talk and were just love bombing me. I started screaming and told them that Jake and I had never and will never be together, and I will not be leaving my fiance. That I would not be going to Jake's wedding, and if they kept up with this, that I would cut every single one of them off, because I am tired, and I just want to live my life, and not in their fairy tale. By the end of the meltdown, my mother and his mother were crying, and my father just told me to get out. Since then, I have been getting messages from my brothers calling me a bee for treating my family like that, because they only wanted what was best for me. So am I the jerk? Edit, no, Uber was not an option. Taxis and Ubers are expensive here, thus taking the freaking train. And no, we don't have a car. They say later in the comments that they have a bike. Tracy was away with my fiance and had a night shift. All right, folks, what do you think? And this was in Germany.
Very much not the jerk. I mean, these parents and other family members are all absolutely horrible. OP and Jake are not little dolls that they just push together in their little happy family game. They are people with their own lives. I understand, they might have thought, oh, it would be cute if they got together, but when OP and Jake decide to have their own independent lives, that's the time you drop it and just first of all, you shouldn't push people together anyway, but let them have their own lives.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really what this boils down to. I don't know if there's really much to be said beyond that. I'm glad that OP is able to no contact with their family if it gets to this point.
Well, I think it's at this point. I think OP just needs to go no contact with all of them, and the same for Jake. He probably needs to cut down the wedding guest list significantly.
Yeah, and I really feel bad that they did this to Jake. I mean, not to Jake, to OP
Jake and OP,
right? To both of them, yes, but I mean, to OP specifically for this letter.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have put OP into a dangerous situation, and plus locking someone in a room like that is really not good. I think that this is, the fact that they, did all this stuff to her is just in such poor taste, and I would not blame OP for never trusting any of them again.
Well, it's clear they don't see OP as a person with autonomy. She has a right to decide what she does with her own body, who she marries, and they don't see that. They want her to just go along with their little charade so they can be officially families forever.
Yeah. But what did the comments have to say?
1 second. There are a lot. Star Trek says, I heard the story before, and OP is not the jerk. OP's family and Jake's family need to grow up. Mary says, oh wow, I can see misery served at Christmas and Thanksgiving for decades to come. I would move to the other side of the country. June says, the parents are creepy, yuck. Mr. Superplush says, that's so disrespectful to Jake's wife. Amy Lynn says, this is just really creepy and gives me the ick. Wow, this just gets worse and worse, and I feel bad for the significant others. What is wrong with this family?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
And June says, the brothers are horrible people. Amy Lynn says, ew, what kind of siblings push for their sister to get laid?
Yeah, I know.
Star Trek says, it's also disrespectful to OP's boyfriend, too. Susum says, I think OP and Jake should go no contact with both families. Mr. Superplush says, this family sounds culty. What the heck? Mary says, how proud they are. OMG, these people are half-wits. Amy Lynn says, this is disgusting. Poor OP, poor Jake, poor Tracy, poor OP's fiance. And Susum says, I actually am worried what they will do in Jake's wedding. Can't imagine they will be nice and quiet.
Speaking of being nice and quiet, It's tea time, folks. And I'm going to end the poll and see what we got here. You grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here. It looks like Mothman is everyone's favorite. Long live the Mothman. That's what I have to say.
There's a nice distribution here, and all the cryptids are great. All cryptids are valid. Someone else said that in the chat. So yes, Mothman did pull ahead in the poll, but there's lots of good cryptids.
You know, I don't care. Amber's trying to massage everyone's feelings here. We all know Mothman is the best, except for Nessie. I mean, I'm partial to Nessie. I
like Nessie too.
I guess if I had voted, then Nessie and Bigfoot would have been in tie. But grab yourself some beverages of choice. Amber has something that I will not call a joke. I refuse to dignify it with that title.
I think you're right with this one. Airlines clerk, you missed your plane? Upset passenger, yes I did. Airlines clerk, by how much did you miss it? Upset passenger, I missed it by 1 minute. Airlines clerk, well, why are you so excited? The way you were carrying on, I thought you missed it by at least an hour.
I think not OP. I think OP tried way too hard on that joke there. I think Jovial Bobstein tried way too hard. You can tell it's hard at the end of the book. He's like, I just gotta write something down, anything down. No one's going to actually make it to the end of this book to actually read these. They just need to exist as pages so that eventually somebody will buy this book and read the first 5 pages. I know I am horrible to Jovial Bobstein, but this joke book has been not the best. All right, what do we got? We got some tea, Mega Mint for me. June says Diet Coke for Mary, and we're guessing Mega Mint again. A grapefruit bubbly. Oh, you have 3 Mothman tattoos, Mr. Super Plush. Welcome. I actually didn't see you join. Tap water, then water, lots of water. So yeah,
I have water as well.
And Amber has water, and that Jovial Bob sign. What a card.
Well, and if people want cryptid books, so there's The United States of Cryptids by J.W. Ocker is one I read this past winter. I really liked. I have another one that's coming in. I forget what it's called, but this one's about cryptids around the world, and so it has really pretty graphics, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. We love Amber reading silly jokes as well. I'm not saying I don't, but speaking of silly jokes, I have Earl Grey. Oh, you got to be here for the last story? Oh, so you must have joined just recently. Well, welcome. Earl Grey it is, folks, and we're moving on to our last story before the...
You keep going.
Apparently, I was not expecting that. I turn around, I flip to the next story here, and I turn back, and Amber has grabbed herself
It's not Amber. It was a wolf that attacked you.
It was the wolf.
I managed to pull the wolf off you.
The wolf. As you all know, Amber is off screen because there are ghost wolves attacking her, and she's defending me while I'm reading Reddit. So if Amber doesn't make an appearance, that's the reason. And she managed to pull the one wolf off of me before I was had my soul devoured, because I assume that ghost wolves can only eat souls. Speaking of ghost wolves only eating souls, our last letter for tonight is titled, Am I a Jerk for Kicking My Family Out for Being Unfairly Harsh About My Husband's Cooking? And yes, I guarantee that there will be at least one ghost wolf to make an appearance in this story. To start, for some context first, my husband grew up in a very unhealthy environment. He and his 9 siblings were raised on a farm and were never sent to school. They were never given any kind of formal education and never gained the literacy or numeric skills that they needed. Boys were obligated and delegated to do outdoor work, where they did manual labor and learned to maintain farming equipment. Girls were delegated to indoor work and were doing cooking and cleaning. Boys were never allowed into the kitchen, never even to get a drink. Their house was bare bones, and before my husband ran away at 18, I'll explain more on this in a minute, he never even saw a microwave. They were conditioned to stay and continue this. marry, and raise their kids in the exact same way. But my husband wanted more, and knowing his family would be unsupportive and possibly try to stop him, he ran away in the middle of the night. He left being unable to read or write with no money, no outside social interactions, and having no life skills. He has come a long way since then, and he still is working on his education, but he also holds a job. He's an amazing, thoughtful man. Just before we got married, he asked me if I would teach him how to cook. He wanted to do more for me and our future kids, to cook for us, provide for us, and he wanted to be better than he was raised to be. It's been a little over 2 years, and now he's grown significantly. But for someone who had to start with the most basic of things that even most kids know, it means that he has had some of those bumps along the ways and being in his 20s when he started to learn anything. But he loves cooking and he does his best. And it's not always the greatest, but there's always something to compliment. And while I'm always honest with him, I always make sure if I have to give a lot of constructive criticism that I pair it with at least one positive. My family knows all of this. They know all the details of his past. And also, they know that he started with no prior knowledge, and they know that he didn't step foot inside of a real kitchen for almost 20 years, period. So, when we hosted them for dinner, and my parents and siblings were so awful about my food, about his food, and my husband's abilities, and they shamed him for not being better after all this time, I lost my cool with them. I told them that he tried so hard, and that they could at least try to be grateful. It was not as bad as they were claiming, and my grandparents even said so. But my parents and siblings told him just to give up because clearly he would never be any good. And I kicked them out, and I told them that I would not stand for them treating my husband this way. My mom even commented that the illiterate in him must be dumb in other things too. My husband was crushed. He loves my family, and hearing them respond this way as they did. Amber slowly working her way onto the screen as a ghost wolf.
You promised there would be a ghost wolf in the story. I had to deliver.
My husband was crushed, and he loves my family, and hearing them respond as they did was really tough for him. I got inundated with texts from my parents and siblings about how rude I was to kick them out, and how I let my temper get the best of me in the worst way. Am I the jerk for not getting rid of the ghost wolves?
I mean, I don't think that's the question here. The ghost wolves are taken care of. But no, I don't think OP is in the wrong, and really good on her for standing up. What the parents were saying was despicable, especially the mom's comment, like, about his illiteracy thing, like, way to, like, punch down. Like, this guy's been through a lot, and he's doing his best, and, like, you're just gonna sit there and trash him?
Well, and on top of that, like, he's coming from a background where he has no prior knowledge, no prior experience, and he has a real big uphill battle, right? And it's harder to learn things as an adult than it is to learn things as a kid. Like, this is a real challenge, and he is doing his very best here. There's no reason for them to act this way. Absolutely no reason at all for them to act this way. And they should be ashamed of themselves. You don't get to tell somebody who's working and trying their best and actually making an effort that they're doing a horrible job here, right? Like, I just think that that's unconscionable. I really do. I think that this was rude of them, and I don't think that OP should stand for anything that they've said here. And I don't care how much they whine or cry or anything like that. They are the ones who are in the wrong here. OP is not the monster. They are. But what did the comments have to say?
So Susan says, the way OP described the husband's childhood, it sounds like he grew up in a cult. Best wishes to OP and the husband. June says, not the jerk. My parents always told me to eat what I'm served in other people's homes and never complain. Mary says, sounds like both families have major drawbacks. OP and hubby need a fresh start on a new continent. Amy Lynn says, OP's family is horrible and good on OP for taking the trash out. June says, the story just got worse. The family are rude people. What a terrible comment. And Amy Lynn says, I actually admire and respect OP's husband for the progress he's made and everything he's done to make something of himself.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Mr. Superflush says, the family must have no awareness because that's 100% the right response to someone disrespecting your partner so maliciously. That was so unnecessarily malicious to say to someone's family. And Susum says, family sounds like terrible people. I'm sure they think their daughter needs a better man who is up to their standards, no matter anything else.
Yeah, I agree on all of that. And speaking of needing to take the trash out, oops, wrong one. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I, as you can see, am a ghost wolf. I'm wearing the mantle of the ghost wolf, because I apparently have Amber has vanquished them, and I am reaping the rewards and benefits.
I guess so. I mean, I do want to say this ghost wolf thing was entirely unscripted. When Brian told me I was going to be a wolf, I have werewolf ears in my prop closet, so I was like, you know what? I guess I'll pull out the wolf ears.
Yeah. So our next live stream is going to be August 30th. August 30th. Wow. What do you know? That's a whole month away. Don't ask me why I stated the obvious. Don't ask me how I stated the obvious. But I did. Thanks everyone for joining. I hope you had a fun time. I hope you enjoyed our shenanigans here, especially Amber's shenanigans, and that we were not consumed by ghosts or wolves or both. So yeah. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I hope you all have a great month, and I hope that we see you again next month.
Well, I guess we won't see them, but see you all tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow. Figuratively, ghostly, those kinds of things. So bye, June. Thanks for joining us. Bye, Sue Sums. I hope you had a good time.
Bye.
Bye, Mr. Super Plush. Bye, Mary. Bye, Amy. Goodbye, Army, Soldier Lady. Bye, everyone who came along. We're glad that you could make it as well. I hope your car is doing better this time around. Have a great weekend too, Amy. It's been fun. It's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. So, yeah. I guess we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.